Hola amigos, and welcome back to another episode of La Vida Verde podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Human, here at Finca Vida Verde. My guest this week is Sharin Kurstin. Sharin is a plumber, a professional plumber with his plumbing company based out of Santa Barbara, California. He is a West African drummer and makes West African instruments. He is a father, and he is also one of our original Tacotal members. Those of us here at Tacotal know him well, but many other people may not. Very excited to have him here for a short period of time, and we're going to talk about all the things. We hope you enjoy. Sharin Kurstin, welcome to La Vida Verde podcast.
Thanks for inviting me over.
I know, bro. You're here for a short period of time. This is we're here for our annual Tacotal meeting.
Yes,
one of your annual sojourns to the motherland here.
My yearly pilgrimage
to
Tacotal for our meeting. I wish I could come. I mean, I try and make it more if I can, but at least once a year. Yeah.
I know. I feel your heart all the time. But you have a son who's getting close to finishing high school, and that's more important. That's important.
No, I got the family scene. I got my business in Santa Barbara. It's hard to get away for too long. So
yeah. Okay, so we'll just start with a little bit of backstory. So Sharin is one of our original Tacotal members. When I first came to this land, you and Bradley were the only two people here. First Tacotalianos I met. And there was just there was just a bench with some mangoes on it, and that was pretty much it.
And a tarp.
And that was life.
Pushed the rain off when it dumped too much.
So you were here in the early
days. There was nothing here. It was full homestead. We were getting like buckets of water out of the creek to.
Not even a water system.
No,
you set up our first water system, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
That was probably your work trade.
That was my half work trade. Yep.
So you were one of our. So Tacotal, we have 6 paid pods, and then we had 2 pods which were work trade. So you were one of our work traders then.
What we called seed pod, I think.
Seed
at that
pod,
point.
right? Or sweat equity.
Sweat equity.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and now yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a wild journey. I didn't expect to be here. I had heard wonderful things about Costa Rica.
How did you get involved?
I met.
I'm gonna guess this has something to do with Stephen Brooks.
No, actually, I met Stephen Brooks. No, I met him after I was kind of. Okay, so I basically was at Burning Man, and we met this amazing crew of people, the Blazing Raisins.
Mm-hmm.
And
you weren't part of the camp.
I wasn't part of the camp. And then, what happened is Dave ended up meeting Heather.
So Dave and Heather are two of our land partners as well.
Yes, and Heather was heavily involved in the Blazing Raisins.
And Blazing Raisin was the original Burning Man camp that most of our Tacotal members were a part of.
Correct. Yes, and then I met them on the playa, and then we ended up. Dave really hooked up with Heather, and then he was madly in love with her. And and then he built her a palace on the playa, and both amazing people, very dear to my heart. Anyways, we met Heather on the playa, and then they started becoming an item, and then we started camping with them.
Who's we?
Me and Dave. There was like a Santa Barbara crew that would go to Burning Man.
Oh, so you and Dave were part of a Santa Barbara crew. Dave meets Heather, who's part of Blazing Raisin.
Correct.
Blazing Raisin starts Tacotal.
Blazing Raisin starts Tacotal. And this was a group of people. If you've gone to Burning Man, you know that it's like an extreme environment. You're really testing the limits of your sanity, of your compassion, of just getting along in community, because you're like in extreme environments, and it's an experience, and it's a week long, and so you're bound to have a breakdown, and you're bound to having a like
Epiphany.
emotional epiphany, or just so many things. And this is a group. I heard them talking about like coming together and forming a community, and they very compelling. I thought, if these guys, can get along out here in these extreme environments year after year, and there's the continual community, it just gave me a lot of confidence that these were amazing people.
Were you looking for that kind of thing, or did it just kind of fall
Sure.
into your
I
lap?
mean, I'm a hippie at heart. I grew up raised by hippies.
Right. So I want to talk about that. So I need to stop and do a quick promotion for our Patreon. We're going to try to get better at promoting this Patreon, patreon.com/La Vida Verde podcast, where we have like kind of exclusive content and really just trying to find ways to creatively fund this podcast. Right now it's all coming out of my pocket. So the more support for Patreon you can do, thank you so much. Get some cool content. And okay, now back to your regular schedule. We're doing commercials in the middle of fucking podcast. Go ahead, now back to our regular schedule. You were raised by hippies. You grew up going to rainbow gatherings, right?
Oh,
like that.
No,
You
not the rainbow gatherings. I didn't they didn't go to rainbow gatherings. At that point, they had me, and they were a little bit trying to like kind of hold it down a little bit more.
What do you
they
mean
had gone to rainbow gatherings.
Okay, so that was their culture.
That was their culture. I mean, my dad was actually pre-hippie. He was a beatnik. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that was a whole nother phase and then the kind of the hippie thing grew out of that, I guess.
What was a beatnik? Tell us. I mean, probably there's people who don't even know what a beatnik was.
Well, I don't want to, I'll try and describe it best of my ability, but my understanding is it's like it was people that were more into like questioning the essence of life, like sitting down, reading poetry, philosophical. It wasn't a drug culture.
It was kind of before the drugs.
It was definitely before that.
Yeah.
It was about like, making beads and like, or they do some bead art and and questioning society. It was a whole like that was the 60s.
It was like
50s.
before, the late 50s, early 60s.
Yes.
Before the hippies, and then the drugs came, and then the hippies.
Then the drugs came. My dad went to the first
Flower
Love-In.
power. Your dad was at the first Love-In.
He had Sandoz. The last day it was legal.
Sandoz LSD.
Yeah.
The last day it was legal. Sandoz Pharmaceuticals was like the first producer of LSD, lysergic diethyl, whatever. I don't even know it. LSD. We all know what acid is, right? He was the that was like they were producing legal LSD, so your dad had the last dose of legal LSD before they banned it and made it illegal. They're like, this is dangerous. It makes people think too much.
So he grew up in that era in Venice. Went to the first Love-In.
Where was that?
I believe in Venice.
Okay.
And then and then he started to see that culture. Then kind of got taken over. Like the bikers started coming in, and there started being this heavy like drug scene. Started getting a little bit more aggressive, and then like anybody with long hair basically was like, I'm a hippie, and it kind of got overtaken. And then they had the rainbow flag, right? That was the rainbow flag, and kind of his joke is like the queers took it over, like it was that was our flag. It's I don't know where to go from there, but
well, it was where you come from.
Where I come from, and
sorry. This isn't a monologue. Sorry,
Okay.
I got you. So basically, you were raised in this very like open-minded hippie culture. Where did you grow up? In Venice.
No, I grew up in. I was. My parents traveled around a little bit as I was a kid.
You grew up on the road.
I grew up on the road, pretty much. Spent some time in Florida, Panama City, Florida.
Wow.
And better known as the Redneck Riviera.
PCB, baby.
Yeah. And beautiful, beautiful beaches and amazing place. And then they moved to Santa Barbara when I was about 5. And then, yeah, I was raised by my stepmother, Marina, who's become my natural mother, basically, and my maternal mother just passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but
Marina's the one who does this cyclical living.
she is a
Cycle.
midwife.
She's a
She's an
midwife.
amazing shaman. You know, she's just pretty much.
Raised by shamans. Sharin, raised by shamans.
Yeah. So
Okay. So that brought you to Santa Barbara, which you became your home.
I
then.
grew up there, and then right after I graduated high school, my house burned down in the Painting Cave fire, and I decided to split town, bought a one-way ticket to Europe, and hung out in Europe for a year, mostly in Prague, which is the wall had just gone down, and it was like an amazing
80s.
time to be. That was the 90s.
Early 90s.
Yeah, like
Okay.
90, 91.
Okay.
Yep. And then I got, that's actually where I went to my first rainbow gathering.
In Prague.
It was in Europe. It was in the Czech Republic on the border between there and Austria. In no
it's
man's
your
land.
International gathering.
International gathering.
Interesting.
Phenomenal. Just mind-blowing. Great group of people. And
If you're ever, by the way, if you don't know what a rainbow gathering is, you should go look it up because there's lots of great videos on it. I could tell you all about my experience. I went for like about 20 years. I've been going on and off, and I always have an amazing, amazing experience. But there's a lot of people who have done good videos on rainbow gatherings.
yeah, there's plenty out there.
But you should check it out if you don't know what it is. Okay.
Yeah. So then we went, rainbow gathering in Europe, and then the Czechs liked it so much they had a national gathering. I went to that. That was really cool.
Nice.
And it was on their holy mountain, Mount Rzhip, in the north of the Czech Republic. And then
It's basically okay. I feel like I have to say it, though. It's basically a free gathering where everything is free, food is free, it's donation based, and it's always in a natural environment, almost always free, public land, and people are it's just and there's no electricity. It's all around the campfires. It's all very, very roots. It's kind of like Burning Man, but without all the explosions and
yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
all barter.
Similar ideals, barter though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now
we
and
cleared
then
that up.
I ended up kind of almost doing a rainbow gathering tour, because then I ended up and then the Israelis were there, and then they formed a gathering, and somehow through synchronicity I was traveling through the Middle East at that time, and went to the rainbow gathering in Israel, and that was phenomenal.
And all this is in the early 90s.
Yes.
Must have been an interesting time to be traveling around that zone.
It was very cool. I was actually there when that was actually a couple years later, and I was there when Sharon was shot and killed on my birthday.
Wow.
And I was at the Rainbow Gathering, and that was such a beautiful just gathering there. And like it's interesting because like each country has their own little take on the Rainbow Gathering.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Okay, well, we can do a whole episode on rainbow gatherings.
You can talk about something else.
And you mentioned Sharon, who was like, for those of you who don't know, he was a very popular Israeli president who was famously kind of like he was kind of pro a two-state solution, or working with Clinton to create a two-state solution with Palestine. So he's a very progressive Israeli politician who was assassinated, and then I think Netanyahu took over right after that, actually.
Right,
and he's still in power.
And he was talking about giving some of the land back to the Palestinians, and he was one of the premier, from my understanding, he was one of the premier generals when they came in and kind of took over that area.
Who, Sharon?
Yeah.
Oh.
So he had lost comrades, and obviously there was a lot of attachment for him, and for him to be making that kind of
stance.
You know.
It was very unpopular with certain factions of
Yeah,
his
and that's
yeah.
a whole conversation
I know,
don't really want to get into.
Israel Palestine here. No, but I just think it's important. You're mentioning these things that, you know, many of our listeners may not know, or, you know, it's important to have some kind of context because you were in Israel or at a rainbow gathering when this happened in Israel.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It was super powerful.
I think Stephen was actually in the square when he got shot. Like, he watched him get shot. He was there.
Holy.
Stephen Brooks. Yeah, crazy. You could talk to him about that. Anyways, okay.
We were there at the
Rainbow
same time.
gathering. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you were there at the same time.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now you're 20 years later. You're land partners. You
Right
know?
down the road.
Who knows? Yeah. So then you were raised this way, and then kind of what happened? You got into West African drumming at some point.
I did. Well, my mom, or my stepmother, Marina, who's the midwife, she's from Cuba, and so there was a lot of like Afro-Cuban drumming around my house as I was growing up.
Cool.
Yeah, they were just like
Amazing.
and they'd have these drum parties like all night long. I remember going to bed, and they were drumming, and I wake up in the morning, and they were still drumming. And you're like, okay, it's dedication. And then, so it was really, I really had I guess, a natural inclination towards it. And then at some point I met a man, Bara Mboop from Senegal. And he turned me on to djembe. And then I ended up going to Senegal with him to study the music and the dance and everything. And I was phenomenal. Another amazing chapter of my life that opened my eyes to so many other
Different
things.
culture.
Different culture.
Yeah.
And to feel the music in the culture.
What was your biggest takeaway from living in Senegal during that time?
Dunk and dunk. Just take your time.
Dunk
chill
and
out.
dunk.
Dunk and dunk. Like just
That's Senegalese. Or what?
Senegalese, the Wolof. Yeah.
Dunk and dunk.
Dunk and dunk.
Take your time.
Take your time. It's so much about
It's like poco a poco.
yeah, just about being present, about just being in the present mode. And I mean, yeah, it was eye-opening for sure on that level, and
you
what's
actually,
important to you. And
I wanted to pull this out because Sharin actually gave me the seeds for this gourd. Where does this come from? You said not Burkina Faso.
The guy, I ordered some big, huge gourds, and I was hoping that was going to be like these monster big gourds. But he sent me I asked him to send me some seeds, and
For like a calabash gourds.
calabash gourds.
This, I think, I mean, I don't know. This
think-
was a squash that came from Africa. I had the seeds. We tried multiple times to grow. We've only been able to successfully grow one. This is full of seeds. I keep thinking, should I cut it open?
You should cut it open and
plant
take
more?
them. Yeah.
And but it's so cool that it's
a natural shaker.
I
yeah.
mean, it's a natural shaker, and it's got like it's almost like you could make an eshekere out of it. You know? But also, it's also like maybe my friend Biko thought maybe you use them for
the balafon.
the
maybe?
balafon. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a really
Yeah,
cool,
it's cool.
West African gourd that you brought to us. Thank you. Keep planting more.
Yes.
And so at some point you met Adele, your wife, who's a West African dancer.
I met her. Yeah, I was drumming for a dance class, and there was this beautiful woman that I was attracted to, and then finally I got up the courage to talk to her, and she was leaving the next day.
Adele is lovely. She's exotic. She's like Polynesian, Hawaiian.
Yeah, she grew up in her high school years in Hawaii, and between there and California. Luckily, part California. That's where I got to meet her, and yeah, we just hit it off, and next thing we knew, we were having a kid.
Yep,
and,
Tavai.
Yeah, Tavai, and the most amazing thing in my life, and just we've grown together, and that's 15 years. We're gonna be.
And what got you into plumbing? Because that's really that's
plumbing.
Now
Yeah.
Sharon's also the owner of Anacapa Plumbing, which is a big plumbing company in Center. In fact, we had a guest here, I don't know, a couple months ago, who I mentioned. I was like, yeah, one of our land partners is a plumber. He owns this plumbing company. Oh, he's like, oh, what's the name of it? Oh, Anacapa. He's like, oh, I know them. They're big. He was a
Yeah.
contractor in Santa Barbara,
Oh,
and he
yeah.
was like, no, I've definitely heard of them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're
Successful.
yeah. I mean, it's. I've got like a crew of 10 great people, and
From a hippie kid to a
business
to a
owner.
business owner.
Who'd have thunk?
That's
Yeah.
a big like jump.
It was definitely yeah, a whole different mindset. I mean, I was like being a plumber was one thing, but then like starting getting employees,
Becoming a business owner, right?
and a business owner,
Yeah.
and there's just so
Totally.
many nuances to that, and it was a big learning curve.
What got you into plumbing to begin with?
Well, my dad was a plumber. For
Oh,
some
your dad
time.
was
my,
a plumber.
My dad was a plumber.
Oh.
So I'd helped him like on the weekends and stuff when I was a kid, and he got injured and stopped doing plumbing. He was primarily a jeweler, an amazing jeweler. But so that was kind of my first introduction to it. And then I had friends that were plumbers, and a lot of my good friends were plumbers, and like I was working at a health food store. I was a produce clerk, and it was a cool job, great community and everything. But I wanted to be monetarily like kind of more free, and I saw plumbing as a good gig for that, and so I started plumbing, and I just I apprenticed under several people in my community. Until I had the confidence to basically go on my own, and then I started my own thing, and then that went on for a couple years, and then I had a client basically, I was interested in kind of building the company, and I had this client that was a financial advisor for other companies and stuff, and I just hit him up. I was like, what do you think is the biggest mistake that companies make, or business owners make when they're trying to to build a business? And his response was they don't invest enough in employees and infrastructure and in my case trucks or a shop and all these things, and it's like it's a big jump because you're taking money out of your pocket and putting it in someone else's with the hopeful that you're going to get a payback eventually once you've formed this relationship and you have a team, because it's hard to like be bigger than yourself.
So it's like investing. It's like believing in the business enough to take out a loan or do whatever you have to do to invest in the business. Rather, it's the kind of the opposite of like shoestringing or like one guy doing it all.
It was huge because basically at some points I had
advice. I mean,
I had to take
serious.
I had to take a pay cut for what I was taking home, and making sure that my employees were taking home the money that they deserved.
Oh, yeah. I did that as a band leader for years. My band always made money, and I was like, I didn't lose any money this time, thankfully.
Right.
But that's the way it works.
Yeah. So investing in yourself, that's the greatest advice I got
Cool.
from Mr. Tony Papa.
Thanks, Tony Papa. Okay. And now and since then, so you are, and like we said, you were like set up our first water system here at Tacotal, which incredibly we almost are still using system.
It's still
until about 3 years ago, we finally started investing. Well, we've poco, we added one big tank since then, but now we took a big jump about 3 years ago. We built like two big new water tanks, and we developed a whole new like manifold, and now we're actually investing in putting out water lines to every lot, like high quality water lines, like permanent water system.
Like a big distribution system, 2-inch trunk lines running everywhere with fire hydrants at little zones, and
which is for people who live in a normal U.S. neighborhood, or who live even in like Alegria or Ecovia or any of these neighborhoods, like those were just there when you got there. We didn't have that. And like one of the things about, paying, we all bought in very inexpensively because that's all we could afford. That's how we were able to start this community. But because of that, we didn't come into a big infrastructure already invested in. We've had to poke up, what do you call it? Bunk up.
Dunk and dunk.
Dunk and dunk. Like go slowly and like learn, and like, there's some wisdom to it, is that you're like, you're taking in, and kind of you can adjust things to be the way it needs to be, like as you're doing more observation. But obviously, like, we had a fire year 2. You were here for that fire,
I was
weren't
here.
you?
That was crazy.
And we had almost a 1-acre fire over there, and you guys, I mean, I missed it. I showed up right as you. I know I drove up in my car, and you guys were like dirty and like looked like you just like came out of like Backdraft, the movie Backdraft, and I was like, what happened to you guys?
5 days of yeah.
You put it out with what? Just shovels and buckets, and
We ended up
because we didn't have any we didn't have a lot of plumbing on the land.
We
at
had
that
like
point.
one little water tank, and we basically we didn't have enough water to put out the big huge fire because it like turned into acres. We ended up making like fire breaks with rakes. We were literally like walking through the fire, and with like towels over our face, like trying to just make separation from the
so
leaves,
that the fire couldn't keep
spreading.
right.
And then once we got it sort of under control, it was about 12 hours later, and the sun was coming up, or something like that. I don't know. It was all blur. And then we started going in shifts.
And you said before your house burnt down before, like you'd previously lost a house.
Yeah, and
To
it was
fire.
and it was interesting because I was here and these guys were like burning stuff, and I was like, dude, you got to be careful, and they're like, gringo, you don't know what I'm talking about, and like this is Costa Rica, it's all green.
Well, it was the dry season, though.
It was the dry season.
It was this time of year, actually.
Yeah, no, and the
the
leaves
wind
are all dry.
Wind
and the
picked up, and I know what happened.
It was-
I remember seeing that exact pile. I remember the day they burned that, and I remember I didn't think anything of it because I didn't have that kind of awareness or consciousness. But I remember we used to just, the guys, our neighbors, the locals we'd hire, they'd just come and they'd rake the piles and we'd burn it and then, just leave them. But yeah, that night the wind picked up and must have blown sparks into the very, very, very dry forest.
Yeah, well, they left a pile, and then exactly, the wind came in, and
Yeah. So
it was crazy.
Fire's been a big part. Fire and water. It's
Fire
so
and water.
interesting. Fire and water are your like elements, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Uh,
And Sharin's been a big advocate for our fire hydrants as well.
definitely.
As well, obviously. So yeah.
After that, I want to see us have the ability to at least curb a fire or save a home.
Yeah. And thank you for all your, on behalf of Tacotal, we all have to thank you for
My
bringing
pleasure.
your expertise. And Dave, you mentioned Dave earlier. Dave's one of our members who you what do you call it? You taught him. I mean,
He did an apprenticeship.
he was a jeweler.
Yeah,
He was a
he's
jeweler,
a jeweler,
like your
yeah.
dad, who
Yeah, I
you
know.
taught plumbing. So
And-
it's funny how the cycles just keep. And he brought you into Tacotal, really,
Yeah.
because he's the one who introduced you to. So yeah, it's all cyclical. We just had
Definitely.
this Lexi talking about cyclical living on here last week. So
Yeah, it's been a long journey with Tacotal.
what's your next step? What's next for Sharin Kurstin and the Kurstin family?
The Kurstin family. Well, we're just right now concentrating on our child. Getting him through school.
He's not such a small child.
He's not a
anymore.
child anymore.
He's actually a
He's not my
teenager.
baby
How
right
old
now.
is he? How old is Tobias?
He is 14.
He's 14.
Going on 18
20.
or
Yeah.
20. Like,
Yeah.
He's a very mature kid. Very proud of him. And he's super dedicated to basketball. Right now is his main thing, and he's like just dribbling like 4 hours a day. You're like, okay,
Dang.
dude, yeah. He's taking
He's
it serious.
tall?
He's
He's kind of a tall kid.
yeah. He's not quite as tall as me yet, but he's got room to grow.
Right.
And let's see.
Plumbing company.
I got my
Anacapa.
I
You
got
your
my business. That's a nonstop. Kind of takes most of my my energy. Been in a band lately in Santa Barbara. That's been fun.
Playing what?
I play percussion.
West African.
And
No,
congas and
djembe,
just
congas.
percussion.
Okay. What kind of a band?
It's like world music, I guess you'd say. It's just a bunch of different world. We're doing stuff from Cape Verde, stuff from West Africa, stuff from what else? Gee, we're doing a Turkish song.
Cool. Sounds cool.
Yeah, the singer speaks like 3 or 4 languages. He's amazing, Nick, and then so that's been really fun. And then I got my group of drummers that I get with every week too, and work on our West African licks.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
And when I was in Santa Barbara, I actually played your shop. You actually you still with the piano guy?
Yeah.
The piano bar,
The piano kitchen
right next door, and it's like a piano repair place. But the guy also has events. You guys also host events over there.
He hosts events with these amazing musicians that come through town, and it's like a little like home. You get this little home concert feel. It's really cool.
Yeah, he like hosted us, and you played. You guys opened with the West African, and then you backed me up. And I remember he actually left to go like tune Josh Groban's piano in the middle of their concert, and then he came back, and it was just like, this is such a cool, interesting little world. Santa Barbara is a really nice place. It was my first time there actually visiting, and you guys took us all around. We went to the Wind Caves and
the Wind Caves and Lizard's Mouth, one of my favorite spots.
I was really impressed with the weather too, and just like the vibe. It had a pretty cool vibe. I can see why you're there. It's not as cool as Tacotal.
No,
but
what is?
But I get it. And so you're okay. And so you're maybe what, a 5-year plan? Come on, give us a date here, Sharin.
Oh, for
when
Tacotal?
Are you moving to Tacotal?
Well, I'm working on.
Are you ever gonna move to Tacotal?
I think at least in my head, my kind of vision is get my kid through school, and then once he's through school, I can have a little bit more bandwidth to progress my lifestyle down here. Hopefully get into like semi-retirement mode or something. And
right, you wanted to build a shop to build instruments and
I just love working with wood. Much funner than copper and steel, but
all the drumming. I mean, all the plumbing.
All the plumbing and drumming. But
drumming, water and fire. I know.
Yeah, and so 5 years that would be ideal for me. Right now I'm working on. I've been working on my own drawing, so now I need to find an architect and a builder here in Tacotal.
We'll get you set up. Don't worry.
So if you know anybody, let me know.
I got you, bro.
Okay.
I got you.
And then, I'd like to just have my spot here and, hit up the beach, go surfing, and pura vida.
Mm-hmm. Adele, she's on the same trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to hold you to it. 5 years from now. 5 years from now, 2029.
Okay.
2029, you better be here.
Wow.
Well, it's been a nice talk. We've got our Tacotal meeting this weekend, so it's going to be, we'll be, Sharin and I are going to go deep in Tacotal land. Some head-to-head brawling, I'm sure. No, I'm just kidding. Debating. Any of you who live in a community and you have an HOA or anything like that knows exactly what we're about to go into. But we generally, I think we've turned the corner. I want to hope we turn the corner. We did that thing with the nonviolent communication workshop a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that was a nice progression. It was last year, actually.
It was a great learning experience. Got a lot of amazing information just about communicating and communication styles, and was able to kind of look at the way I communicate and go, wow, that's maybe classified as this or that, or just having those skills to like break it down was really nice. And
shout out Christine Rain and Conversable.
Yeah, they
were
amazing.
Awesome. I saw her this year at Envision, actually.
Cool.
She spoke on she's awesome.
And I just feel blessed to be part of this community, Tacotal. And something really stood out. You had an interview with a Mexicana
architect.
Yep,
Daniela Lujan.
Yeah, and she was talking about the communities, and she, I guess, helps kind of design the infrastructure of those things. And something that really stood out was that here at Tacotal, we have the community, like we really do have a community. Mm-hmm. We're all scattered all over, but we all come together.
Yeah.
We've 15 plus years. What is it like? I think
16.
Yeah.
16 years I've been here 16 years, so it's been 17 years in
Yeah.
the community.
So it's been dunk and dunk, poco a poco.
It's been dunk.
And
Mostly dunk.
but we've sustained community where we don't have all the infrastructure that maybe other communities have, or the monetary freedom maybe that other communities have. I just feel like we have an amazing group of people. Like, I mean, the caliber, the quality of just everyone here is like a rock star, in my opinion.
It's true. I agree with that. And I also, I mean, to be fair, I also feel the same way about the people in Ecovia and Alegria and all the other local communities. So, but yeah, we do. We've spent a lot of time like at our interpersonal, because we haven't had the, and doing the infrastructure together and doing these things has really forced us to like work together in ways that many people would not have to.
For better or worse, it's not always easy.
Exactly.
Like there's going to be some debating this weekend.
We're still working on it. But, yeah. I want to say shout out, thank you to Ecoteas Mate. Sharon and I are both enjoying your mate. In fact, this was Ecoteas. One of the founders, Stefan Schechter, was one of our original Tacotal members. I have since bought his share, but the company still finds it in their heart to support me with Ecoteas Mate. Thank you so much. I drink it every week. This is La Vida Verde podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Human. My guest has been Sharin Kurstin, our Tacotal member, plumber, founder of Anacapa Plumbing. Thank you so much for being here, Sharin.
Thanks for having me. Oh, sorry.
My fault. And we'll be back next Tuesday. We release episodes every Tuesday on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. You can check us out on Instagram at Finca Vida Verde CR. We're on Facebook, Finca Vida Verde. Do not forget to go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/La Vida Verde podcast, so you can support us, please. If you have a business that you would like us to promote, you can hit me up. And we will see you next time. Pura vida.
Pura vida.